I'd spent 6 months preparing for the moment when the judge would read those DNA results. 6 months of lawyers, depositions, sleepless nights, and a growing certainty that the baby my wife was carrying wasn't mine. I'd made peace with that. What I wasn't prepared for was what came next. The courtroom was dead silent as Judge Martinez adjusted her reading glasses and opened the sealed envelope. My lawyer, Robert, sat beside me with that calm, seen-it-all expression he always wore. Across the aisle, Sarah, my soon-to-be ex-wife, gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles went white. Her lawyer, a sharp woman named Lisa Grant, leaned over to whisper something, but Sarah didn't seem to hear. And then there were the other two men. Kevin Douglas sat 3 rows back with his own attorney, his expensive suit perfectly tailored, his jaw clenched. Next to him, his wife Amanda, a corporate lawyer who looked like she could eviscerate you with a contract clause, sat with her arms crossed, watching Sarah with the kind of cold focus that made me grateful I wasn't on the receiving end. The third man, Tyler Richards, sat alone near the back. No lawyer, couldn't afford one. He looked terrified. The DNA test excludes Mr. Mitchell as the biological father, Judge Martinez said, her voice measured and professional. I'd expected that. I'd known it for months, but I still felt something inside me crack a little more. However, the judge continued, and her tone shifted just slightly. It also excludes Mr. Douglas. The courtroom erupted, not loudly, this wasn't TV, but in that sharp intake of breath that happens when everyone realizes something huge just shifted. Kevin stood up halfway out of his seat. "That's impossible," he said. "She told me." "Mr. Douglas, sit down," the judge ordered. Sarah's face had gone from white to gray. She grabbed the table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. The judge looked down at the paper again, then directly at Tyler. "Mr. Richards, according to these results, you are the biological father." Tyler made a sound, not quite a word, more like all the air leaving his lungs at once. That's when I knew. My lawyer knew. And judging by the way Sarah's eyes went wide with panic, she knew we'd figured it out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 7 months earlier, I thought I had the perfect marriage. It's funny how you can be living inside a lie and not even know it. Like those optical illusions where you think you're seeing one thing, but then someone points out the hidden image and you can't unsee it. That was my life with Sarah. We'd been married 7 years. High school sweethearts who made it work through college, through the rough post-graduation years, through building our careers. We had a comfortable 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Murphy, dual income, no kids, the modern American dream, or at least a version of it. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years. That's what Sarah always said. Trying. But there was always a reason to wait just a little longer. Her career was taking off. She'd just gotten a promotion. The timing wasn't quite right. Looking back, I should have wondered why someone who claimed to want a baby kept finding reasons to delay. But I told myself I was being supportive. She was ambitious. This was her moment. What kind of husband would I be if I held her back? The promotion came about 9 months before everything fell apart. Sarah got moved to work directly under Kevin Douglas, the CEO of Douglas & Partners, a marketing agency that was making serious money in the tech space. It was a huge opportunity. I was proud of her. That's when the late nights started, the work dinners. The weekends she had to go into the office. She started going to the gym more. Nothing wrong with that, right? She bought new lingerie. I barely saw her wear it, but I assumed it was for me. Eventually, when she wasn't so tired from work, if you're listening to this and you've ever had that sick feeling in your gut, that sense that something's wrong but you can't quite name it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I had it. For months. But I pushed it down. I told myself I was being paranoid, insecure, the kind of controlling husband she definitely didn't need. I wish I'd listened to my gut. It was a Tuesday evening in March when she told me she was pregnant. I remember because I'd made dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, and she came home late, like she always did. She looked stressed, exhausted. "Can you sit down?" she said. "I need to tell you something." My first thought was that she was quitting her job, or maybe her mother was sick. I sat down at the kitchen table, and she put something in front of me, a sonogram photo. "I'm pregnant," she said. For about 10 seconds, I was the happiest I'd ever been. This was it. This was what we'd wanted. 7 years of marriage, 2 years of trying, and finally, we were going to be parents. I stood up so fast I almost knocked over my chair. I hugged her. I might have cried a little. She felt stiff in my arms, not quite hugging back. "Aren't you excited?" I asked, pulling back to look at her face. "I am," she said, but her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "I'm just scared. Everything's going to change." "Of course it will," I said. "That's what's supposed to happen." She nodded. She tried to smile. But something about it felt wrong, like she was playing a part in a movie and hadn't quite memorized her lines. I should have asked more questions right then, but I was too happy. Too relieved that maybe finally things were going to go back to the way they used to be. 72 hours later, my entire world collapsed. Sarah came home late again that Friday night. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes were red and swollen, and not from pregnancy hormones. "Sarah, what's wrong?" I said, standing up from the couch. "Is it the baby?" She shook her head. She set down her purse. She looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face before something terrible happened. "I have to tell you something," she said. "The baby, it might not be yours." The room tilted. I actually felt dizzy, like the floor had suddenly become the wall. "What?" "I've been having an affair," her voice cracked. "With Kevin. It started 4 months ago. I'm so sorry." 4 months. 4 months of lying to my face. 4 months of late nights that suddenly made horrible sense. 4 months of her coming home smelling like someone else's cologne and me telling myself I was imagining things. "I was going to end it," she continued. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "I swear I was. But then I got pregnant. And I counted back the dates and the timing. Brandon, I think it's his." I couldn't breathe, literally couldn't pull air into my lungs. 4 months? I finally managed. "You've been lying to me for 4 months? I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. He made me feel powerful. Get out. Brandon, get out. Just get out of my house." She left. I sat on the couch until 3 a.m., staring at nothing. At some point, I picked up the sonogram photo she'd left on the coffee table, a tiny blob of cells that might not even be mine, a baby that was supposed to be our future, now a weapon being used to destroy everything I thought I knew. The next morning, I called my older brother Daniel. He's a financial analyst, thinks in spreadsheets and risk assessment. I needed someone who wouldn't let me make decisions based on emotion. "Don't sign anything," he said immediately. "Don't agree to anything. Don't let her guilt you into staying. Get a lawyer, today." I don't even know where to start. "Family law attorney, I'll send you some names. Brandon, listen to me. You need to protect yourself legally, right now." I spent the next 6 hours researching paternity law, child support obligations, divorce proceedings. And that's when I discovered something that made my blood run cold. In my state, if you're married when a baby is born, you're automatically presumed to be the legal father. Even if a DNA test later proves the baby isn't biologically yours, you can still be on the hook for child support. For 18 years. The only way to avoid it is to challenge paternity before the birth, through the courts, with DNA evidence. If I didn't act fast, if I just let this play out, let Sarah have the baby while we were still legally married, I could be trapped into raising and paying for another man's child for nearly 2 decades. That's when I realized this wasn't just about heartbreak. This was a legal trap, and I needed to lawyer up immediately. Robert Henderson's office was in a modest building downtown, nothing flashy. He was in his 50s, graying hair, calm eyes that had clearly seen every variation of human relationship disaster. When I sat down across from him and started explaining my situation, he didn't even look surprised. "You need 2 things," he said, pulling out a legal pad. "First, a court-ordered prenatal paternity test. Second, you need to file for divorce immediately to block the automatic presumption of paternity. What if she refuses the test? We compel it through the court. But here's what I need you to do, Brandon." He leaned forward. "Document everything. Every text message, every phone call, every conversation. Record it if you can, legally. And most importantly, don't let emotion cloud your judgment." "What do you mean?" "She told you about the affair. Why?" I blinked. "Because she felt guilty?" "Maybe, or maybe she's scared. She doesn't want to raise a baby alone, my guess. She's hoping you'll forgive her and she can have both. You as the stable provider, him as the exciting affair. If she can string this out, keep you emotionally attached, she increases her options. The thought made me feel sick. But it also made sense. Sarah was strategic. She'd always been good at reading people, at knowing what to say to get what she wanted. It's what made her good at marketing. So what do? You beat her to the punch, file first, demand the test, control the narrative. Robert tapped his pen on the desk. And Brandon, this is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the past 7 years, the trips we'd taken, the inside jokes, the way she used to curl up against me on the couch during movies, the life I thought we were building. Yeah, I said, I'm prepared. As I left his office, my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. We need to talk. There are things you don't know about Kevin. I stared at the message. Things I didn't know. As if there was something about her boss, the man she'd been sleeping with, the potential father of her child, that would somehow make this better. I didn't respond. I forwarded the text to Robert instead. The game had already started, and I was done playing defense. Sarah insisted on meeting at a coffee shop. Neutral ground, public, safe. I agreed, but I made sure to bring my phone with a recording app running in my pocket. Legal in my state as long as one party consents. And I was one party. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes. She'd lost weight, which seemed wrong for someone who was supposed to be pregnant. She ordered a decaf coffee and sat across from me, like we were strangers. I need you to understand something, she started. About Kevin, he pressured me. He's my boss. I was scared to say no. I felt my jaw tighten. Are you saying he coerced you? It wasn't that simple, but yes, kind of. He had power over my career, and then we should report him. File a complaint. HR. Legal. If he coerced you, that's illegal. She backtracked immediately. It's not that simple. I can't prove it. And I need my job, especially now. Something in her voice didn't ring true. I noticed she was wearing a perfume I'd never smelled before. Expensive. Her jewelry, earrings and a bracelet, weren't things I'd bought her. Sarah, were you coerced or not? I want you to understand why it happened. It wasn't about you. You're a good man. You're stable and kind and boring. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. We sat in silence. She twisted her wedding ring around her finger, nervous habit she'd always had. Back when we first got engaged, I'd found it endearing. Now, it just looked like a tell. I filed for divorce, I said. Her face went pale. Brandon, don't, please. We can work through this. Couples therapy, we can... And I'm petitioning for a court-ordered DNA test. You what? Before the baby is born, to establish paternity. You're destroying my career, her voice rose. The couple at the next table glanced over. Everyone at work is going to know. You destroyed our marriage. I'm just protecting myself. She stood up, grabbed her purse. Kevin is going to be so angry. You don't know what he's capable of. I watched her storm out. The way she'd pivoted from victim to threat was jarring, like she'd been reading from a script and suddenly realized she'd picked the wrong scene. I sat there for another 10 minutes, finishing my coffee, thinking about what she'd said. Kevin is going to be so angry. Not, I'm so scared. Not, what have I done? But worry about how Kevin would react. It felt theatrical, manipulative. That's when I realized I didn't actually know who my wife was. Maybe I never had. Robert recommended a private investigator named Marcus, former cop, now did freelance work for divorce attorneys. He was expensive, but Robert assured me it would be worth it. You need proof, Robert said. Documentation, photos if possible. The more evidence we have, the stronger your position. Marcus followed Sarah for 2 weeks. His reports came in every few days. Detailed logs of where she went, who she met, what time she got home. The pattern was clear. She was still seeing Kevin. Hotel meetings twice during those 2 weeks. But that wasn't the part that made my hands shake when I read the report. Subject met with unidentified male, approximately 30-ish, 35 years old, medium build, dark hair. Meetings occurred at a cafe on Elm Street, 3 of 15, at subject's apartment, 318, and at the male's residence, 320. Physical contact observed, hand-holding, kissing, embrace in vehicle. Photos were attached. Sarah and a man I'd never seen before. He looked artsy, flannel shirt, messy hair. The kind of guy who probably had strong opinions about craft beer and vinyl records. There was someone else, not Kevin. A third person. I called Robert immediately. "There's another man. Tell me everything." I forwarded him the report and photos. He was quiet for a long moment. "Brandon, this changes the entire case. Who is he?" "I don't know. Marcus is running a reverse image search, checking social media. When he finds out, call me immediately. We may need to amend the paternity petition." I hung up and stared at the photos. Sarah laughing at something this stranger said. Sarah kissing him in his car. Sarah with her hand on his chest, looking up at him the way she used to look at me. How long had this been going on? And how many other lies had I believed? Tyler Richards, age 33, freelance photographer. Lived in a small apartment about 20 minutes from our house. His Instagram was public, full of artistic shots, black and white photos of urban decay, pretentious captions about authenticity and emotional truth, and scattered throughout his posts from the past 8 months. Subtle photos of a woman's hand, no face, just a hand with painted nails. A bracelet I recognized, Sarah's bracelet, the one she claimed her sister had given her for her birthday. One caption read, "Finally found someone who sees me." Another, "Sometimes you have to break the rules to find what's real." I zoomed in on the photos. That was definitely Sarah's nail polish. Her ring, not her wedding ring, but a silver band she wore on her right hand. I scrolled back further. The first photo of the hand was dated 8 months ago, the same time the affair with Kevin supposedly started. Sarah hadn't been juggling 2 relationships. She'd been juggling 3. I sat back in my chair, my laptop screen glowing in the dark. It was past midnight. I should have felt angry, betrayed. Instead, I just felt fascinated, in a sick way, like watching a documentary about a con artist and slowly realizing the scope of what they'd pulled off. How had she managed it? The logistics alone, keeping 3 different men separated, maintaining 3 different versions of herself, remembering which lies she'd told to whom. It was almost impressive. Almost. I forwarded everything to Robert and Marcus. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I sent Tyler a DM. "We need to talk about Sarah." He responded within 5 minutes. "Who is this?" "Her husband." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Finally, I can explain. I'm sure you can. Coffee tomorrow, 10 a.m., Starbucks on 5th. Okay. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay in bed. In the house that used to be ours, in the bedroom where we used to sleep together, and stared at the ceiling, trying to figure out if anything about my marriage had been real. Tyler showed up early. He looked nervous, scanning the coffee shop like he expected me to attack him. I'd picked a public place specifically to avoid that kind of drama. I just wanted answers. "Sit," I said. He sat. "How long?" "I don't know what." "How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" He swallowed hard. It's not like that. We have a connection, a real one. She said you were emotionally abusive, that the marriage was dead, that she was planning to leave you." Emotionally abusive? The words hit me like a slap. "And you believed her?" "She showed me texts, things you'd said, how you controlled her money, didn't let her see her friends." "I've never controlled her money. We have separate accounts. And her friends? I've never stopped her from seeing anyone." Tyler's face was pale now. She said you'd say that abusers always deny it. I'm not an abuser. I'm the guy who didn't know his wife was sleeping with at least 2 other men." "At least 2? You didn't know about Kevin?" "Who's Kevin?" I actually laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. "Her boss, the CEO, the guy she told me was the father of her baby, the same baby she probably told you was from before she left me. Right?" Tyler stood up so fast his chair nearly fell over. "She's pregnant? You didn't know?" She said. He stopped. His hands were shaking. "She said she couldn't get pregnant. Medical condition. That's why we didn't need to be careful." Jesus Christ. "She's 3 months along, and she told me it was Kevin's. But my lawyer petitioned for a DNA test. We're going to find out whose baby it really is." I paused. "You might want to get your own lawyer." Tyler sat back down slowly. He looked like he might throw up. "I thought I was saving her," he said quietly. "From you." "Yeah, join the club." The confrontation at the house was inevitable. Sarah had been staying with a friend, but she still had keys. She came by when she knew I'd be home, probably hoping to salvage something, control the narrative, play the victim card one more time. I was ready. "Who's Tyler Richards?" I said as soon as she walked through the door. She froze. For just a second, her mask slipped. Then she recovered. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos from Marcus's surveillance. Her face drained of color. "It's not what it looks like." "Then what is it?" "Tyler and I, we have a connection, a real one. It's different from me or from Kevin." She closed her eyes. "This isn't fair." "Fair?" I stood up. "You've been sleeping with at least 3 people. You lied about who the father of your baby is. You told Tyler I'm abusive. You're trying to trap Kevin into child support. And you want to talk to me about fair? You don't understand." Her voice rose. "I had to keep my options open. I can't just—" She stopped herself, but it was too late. "Keep your options open," I repeated slowly. "That's what this was? Options?" She tried to backtrack. "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it was. Kevin for the money, me for stability, Tyler for— What? The artistic soul connection?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The look on her face said everything. "Get out," I said. "And leave your keys." "Brandon, leave your keys." She did. She set them on the counter and walked out without another word. I watched from the window as she got into her car and sat there for a minute, probably calling someone. Tyler? Kevin? Another man I hadn't discovered yet? I didn't care anymore. I called Robert. "We need to amend the petition to include Tyler Richards as a potential father." "Already drafting it," Robert said. "And Brandon, this just became a very different case." "How so?" "If Sarah was lying to Kevin about the paternity to extort child support from a wealthy man, that's fraud, criminal fraud. The DA might be interested." For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope, not for my marriage, that was dead, but for justice. "Let's do it," I said. The court date was set for 3 weeks later. In that time, several things happened. Kevin received his subpoena for the paternity test. According to Robert's sources, his wife Amanda found out about the affair through the legal paperwork. They had a massive fight. She kicked him out. Then, apparently, she started digging into exactly what Sarah had told her husband and when. Tyler got served with papers too. He called me, panicking. "I can't afford a lawyer," he said. "What do I do?" "Show up to court, tell the truth. That's all you can do." "Brandon, I'm sorry. I really thought—" "I know. So did I." We hung up. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. And Sarah? Sarah hired a lawyer named Lisa Grant, known for defending women in nasty divorce cases. Lisa immediately tried to frame the situation as marital rape, coercion, emotional abuse, all the buzzwords designed to make Sarah the victim. Robert wasn't worried. "We have evidence. She doesn't. Let her lawyer try." The night before the court hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about wedding photos, honeymoon in Hawaii, the way Sarah used to laugh at my terrible jokes, the life I thought we were building. Maybe I'd ignored signs because I didn't want to see them. Maybe I'd been as much in denial as she'd been in deception. But tomorrow, the truth would come out. All of it. I got a text from my brother Daniel at 2 a.m. "You got this. Truth is on your side." I hoped he was right. The courthouse was gray and institutional, the kind of building designed to drain all emotion from human drama. I arrived early with Robert. Kevin was already there, in an expensive navy suit, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His wife Amanda sat beside him, not holding his hand, just there, a presence. Tyler showed up 10 minutes later. No suit, just khakis and a button-down shirt. He looked terrified. Then Sarah walked in with Lisa Grant. She was wearing a modest dress, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. The picture of a wronged pregnant woman. She saw me and looked away quickly. We were all led into a courtroom. Judge Helen Martinez presiding, stern, efficient, no nonsense. She looked at the 4 of us, me, Sarah, Kevin, Tyler, and I saw the briefest flicker of exasperation cross her face. Like she was thinking, "Really? This is what I'm dealing with today?" "Let's be clear about why we're here," Judge Martinez said, adjusting her glasses. Mr. Mitchell has petitioned for DNA testing to establish paternity of the unborn child. He's named himself, Mr. Douglas, and Mr. Richards as potential fathers. Mrs. Mitchell, do you contest this petition? Lisa Grant stood. Your Honor, my client feels this is invasive, and the court disagrees. DNA testing is ordered for all three men. However, I want to hear testimony first about the circumstances that led to this situation. She looked at Sarah. Mrs. Mitchell, you're under oath. Tell me about your relationship with Mr. Douglas. Sarah took a breath. The victim mask slid into place. Kevin is my boss. About 4 months ago, he started making advances. I tried to refuse, but he's powerful. He controls my career. I was afraid of what would happen if I said no. Kevin half stood. That's a lie. Mr. Douglas, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt. He sat. Amanda whispered something to him. Sarah continued, voice shaking. I told my husband because I couldn't live with the guilt. I never wanted any of this. I was trapped. Robert stood up. Your Honor, may I cross-examine? Proceed. Robert approached Sarah calmly. He had a folder in his hands. Mrs. Mitchell, you said the affair with Mr. Douglas started 4 months ago. That would be December, correct? Yes. And you're saying he pressured you, that it was unwanted? Yes. Robert opened the folder and pulled out a document. This is the attendance record from a marketing conference in September, 8 months ago. You and Mr. Douglas both attended, is that correct? Sarah hesitated. I think so, and these are hotel records showing that you shared a room. The courtroom went very quiet. I must have forgotten. Maybe it started earlier. Or maybe you're lying about when it started because there's something else you don't want us to know. Objection, Lisa said. Speculation. Sustained. Move on, counselor. Robert smiled slightly. Let me ask you this, Mrs. Mitchell. Do you know a man named Tyler Richards? Sarah's face went white. No comment. That's interesting, because Mr. Richards is here today. Your Honor, I'd like to call Tyler Richards to the stand. Tyler took the stand like a man walking to his own execution. He was sworn in, and Robert started gently. Mr. Richards, how do you know Sarah Mitchell? We dated, in college. Then we reconnected about 8 months ago. 8 months? That's interesting, because Mrs. Mitchell said her affair with Mr. Douglas started 4 months ago. Were you aware she was seeing multiple people? Tyler's voice shook. No. She told me her marriage was abusive, that her husband... He glanced at me. That Brandon was controlling, that she was planning to leave him. She said once the divorce was final, we'd be together. Did she tell you she was pregnant? Yes, last month. She said it was from before she left her husband. She said she wanted me to help her raise the baby. I watched Sarah's face. She was trapped, and she knew it. Robert pulled out more photos. These are surveillance photos of you and Mrs. Mitchell from the past month, kissing, holding hands, meeting at your apartment. Does this look like a woman trapped in an unwanted affair? Tyler didn't answer. He didn't need to. And did Mrs. Mitchell tell you about Kevin Douglas? No, I didn't know about him until today. So she was seeing you, her husband, and Mr. Douglas, all at the same time, and each of you thought you were the only one? Objection! Lisa was on her feet. This is harassment of my client. Overruled. I want to hear this. Continue, Mr. Richards. Tyler looked at Sarah. I thought you loved me. Sarah said nothing. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Mrs. Mitchell, is Mr. Richards telling the truth? Were you simultaneously involved with 3 men? Sarah's lawyer whispered urgently to her. Finally, Sarah spoke. It wasn't like that. I was confused. I was trying to figure out what I wanted. By lying to everyone? The judge didn't sound sympathetic. Before Sarah could answer, someone stood up in the gallery. Amanda Douglas. Your Honor, may I approach? Who are you? Amanda Douglas, Kevin Douglas's wife, and I have evidence I'd like to submit. Amanda handed a thick folder to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. Judge Martinez flipped through it, her expression darkening. What is this? Phone records, Your Honor. Text messages between my husband and Mrs. Mitchell. Emails. Photos she sent him. I've been collecting evidence since I found out about the affair. She turned to look at Sarah, and her voice was cold and precise. Mrs. Mitchell initiated contact with my husband. She pursued him. She sent explicit photos. She told him I was cold, that their connection was destiny. She said her husband was boring and that she deserved better. Kevin looked ashamed. Sarah looked trapped. Amanda continued, "Your Honor, I'm a lawyer. I specialize in corporate law, but I understand contracts and intent. Mrs. Mitchell didn't just have an affair. She ran a calculated operation. She picked my husband because he has money. She kept her husband because he's stable, and she maintained Mr. Richards because he gave her something else." Amanda's voice dripped with contempt. She wanted all three, and she was going to use this baby as leverage to extract resources from whoever was most convenient. "That's not true," Sarah finally found her voice. "I never—" "Then explain the text message you sent to my husband 3 weeks ago." Amanda pulled out her phone and read, "If the baby is yours, we're talking at least $5,000 a month in child support. Maybe more. You'll want to be generous." The courtroom exploded. Kevin stood up. Tyler looked like he'd been punched. I felt something hot and vindictive rise in my chest. "That's extortion," Robert said calmly to the judge. "Clear intent to defraud." Judge Martinez held up her hand for silence. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to give you one chance to tell the truth. Who do you believe is the father of your child?" Sarah looked at her lawyer. Lisa Grant looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. I don't know," Sarah finally said. "The timing, it could be any of them. Or you know exactly who it is, and you've been lying to maximize your financial options." The judge was angry now. "DNA results, now!" The bailiff handed her an envelope. Judge Martinez opened it, read the contents, and for just a moment, I saw surprise flicker across her professional mask. "The DNA results exclude Mr. Mitchell as the biological father." I had expected that. It still hurt. "However, they also exclude Mr. Douglas." Kevin stood up. "That's impossible. She told me—" "Mr. Douglas, sit down." The judge looked at Tyler. "Mr. Richards, according to these results, you are the biological father." Tyler made a choking sound. Sarah grabbed the table like her legs might give out. And that's when I understood the whole thing. She'd gotten pregnant with Tyler's baby. Tyler, who had no money, who lived in a tiny apartment, who couldn't afford a lawyer. But she'd tried to pin the paternity on Kevin, who was worth millions. She'd already told me the baby wasn't mine, so I'd walk away and not ask questions. She'd calculated all of it. "Your Honor," Robert stood up, "I'd like to point out that Mrs. Mitchell committed perjury in her initial statements. She claimed the affair with Mr. Douglas was unwanted. Evidence shows she initiated and pursued it. She claimed the baby was likely Mr. Douglas's. She appears to have known it was Mr. Richards's all along. This is fraud." Judge Martinez looked at Sarah with undisguised disgust. "Mrs. Mitchell, you lied under oath. You attempted to defraud Mr. Douglas. You manipulated 3 men simultaneously." She paused. "I'm granting Mr. Mitchell's petition for divorce. Given the circumstances, specifically the fraud, there will be no alimony. Assets will be divided per your prenuptial agreement." Sarah started crying. Real tears this time, not the performance tears. "Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges, perjury, attempted fraud, and possibly conspiracy." The judge turned to Tyler. "Mr. Richards, you are the biological father. You'll need to establish custody arrangements separately. The court recommends mediation." She turned to Kevin. "Mr. Douglas, you are not the biological father. You have no legal obligation to this child." Finally, she looked at me. "Mr. Mitchell, you are not the biological father. This divorce is granted. You are released from all obligations related to this child." She paused. "I'm also granting temporary restraining orders for both Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Douglas against Mrs. Mitchell, pending resolution of the criminal investigation." The gavel came down. It was over. We stood on the courthouse steps afterward, 3 men who'd been strangers 4 hours ago, bonded by one person's lies. Kevin spoke first. "I'm sorry," he said to me. "For all of it, I believed her. I should have known better." I shook his hand. We all believed her. That's what she was good at. Tyler stood off to the side, pale and shaking. I walked over to him. "You're going to be a father," I said. "That baby didn't ask for any of this." "I know." His voice was hollow. "I don't even know if I can trust that I'm really the father, or if that's another lie." "The test doesn't lie," You'll figure it out. Will I? He looked at me. Every time I look at that kid, I'm going to see her. I'm going to remember that everything she told me was a lie. I didn't have an answer for that. Kevin's wife Amanda walked past us, heading to their car. She stopped and looked at me. I hope you find someone better, she said. Someone honest? You too. She actually smiled. Oh, I'm not going anywhere. Kevin's an idiot, but he's my idiot. He's just going to be a very sorry idiot for a very long time. They left. Tyler left. Robert clapped me on the shoulder. That was as clean a win as you'll ever see. She's facing criminal charges. You're free. Yeah, I said. Free. I drove home alone, signed the papers that officially made me a single man again, sat in the house that used to be ours and felt nothing, not relief, not satisfaction, just empty. 3 months later, I'd moved into a smaller apartment, sold the house, and split the equity. Sarah pleaded guilty to perjury and got probation and community service. No jail time, but a criminal record that would follow her forever. She'd lost her job, moved back in with her parents, had the baby, a boy. Tyler struggled. He had split custody, but every time I ran into him at the grocery store or the gym, he looked more exhausted, more defeated. I love him, Tyler told me once, the baby strapped to his chest in a carrier. But every time I look at him, I see her lies. I see how she used me, used all of us. That's not his fault, I said. I know. That's what kills me. Kevin reached out a few months after the court case, asked if I wanted to grab coffee. No agenda, he said. Just two guys who'd been through something weird together. We met at a neutral coffee shop, talked about trust issues, about how we'd both been manipulated, about lessons learned. Amanda says I have a savior complex, Kevin admitted, that I thought I could rescue Sarah from a bad marriage. Turns out I was the one who needed rescuing. I thought if I just loved her enough, nothing bad could happen, I said. Turns out love isn't armor. What now? He asked. Therapy, work, figuring out how to trust people again without being paranoid. Same. We became unlikely friends after that. Not close, but friendly. The kind of bond you form when you've been through something surreal together. I heard through mutual friends that Sarah was dating someone new within 6 months. I wasn't even surprised. A year after the divorce was finalized, I was finally starting to feel like myself again. New apartment, new routines. I'd started seeing a therapist who specialized in trust issues and betrayal trauma. She was helping me understand the red flags I'd ignored, the boundaries I'd failed to set. You weren't naive, she told me. You were trusting. There's a difference. Trusting got me destroyed. No, trusting the wrong person got you hurt. That doesn't mean trust itself is the problem. I wasn't sure I believed her yet, but I was working on it. One evening, I was walking past a jewelry store and stopped in front of the window display, wedding rings gleaming under the lights. I looked at my left hand, bare now, a faint tan line where my ring used to be. I thought about the baby, Sarah's son, Tyler's son. That kid was going to grow up with the truth eventually. He'd find out his mother had juggled 3 men, that she'd tried to commit fraud, that his whole existence began with lies and manipulation. I hoped he'd be okay. I hoped Tyler would figure out how to separate his love for his son from his anger at Sarah. I hoped that kid wouldn't grow up thinking relationships were just elaborate cons. But mostly I hoped I'd learned something about trust and verification, about the difference between being supportive and being blind, about protecting yourself without becoming cynical. Deep down, I still believed in love. I still believed in partnership. I just believed in it with my eyes open now, with boundaries, with the understanding that trust has to be earned, not automatically given. There's a difference between trust and naivety. I won't make that mistake again. I walked away from the jewelry store into the evening light toward whatever came next. If you're listening to this and wondering if I regret any of it, the answer is complicated. I don't regret loving Sarah. I don't regret the years we had before everything collapsed. Those memories were real, even if they were built on a foundation I didn't fully understand. But I regret not listening to my gut. I regret dismissing my instincts as paranoia. I regret not asking harder questions when things felt off. Maybe you're listening to this because you have that feeling right now, that something isn't right in your relationship, but you can't prove it. You don't want to be the jealous, controlling partner. You don't want to ruin something good because of your own insecurity. Here's what I learned. Trust your gut. Not obsessively, not paranoid, checking phones and tracking locations. But if something feels wrong, it's worth examining. It's worth asking questions. It's worth protecting yourself. Because the truth always comes out, eventually. And when it does, you want to be the person who saw it coming and prepared, not the person who ignored every warning sign until it was too late. What would you have done if you were me? Maybe you'd have confronted Sarah earlier. Maybe you'd have forgiven her. Maybe you'd have handled the whole thing differently. I'll never know if I made the right choices. But I made the choices I could live with. I fought for the truth, even when it hurt. I protected myself legally. And I walked away with my dignity intact. Without truth, there's no foundation. And without foundation, everything collapses. Eventually, that's what I learned. That's what cost me 7 years of my life to understand. I hope your education comes cheaper than mine did.